Howdy folks, welcome back. Today's project is this Ford F700 flatbed truck. It's actually a flatbed dump. It belongs to a YouTube viewer who's local to me, or local-ish, and he uses it for his tree trimming service. It has a 429 or 7-liter gasoline engine and a Eaton Fuller 6-speed manual transmission. It does have air brakes. It's got a few minor issues, but overall it seems to be in pretty good shape. He says that it has a pretty significant exhaust leak, possibly from the exhaust manifolds. It has a bit of a misfire, kind of runs rough, and there's some electrical problems. The fuel gauge doesn't work, and some of the various lights don't work. I forget what he told me this truck was originally built for, utility company or something. Anyway, it's got this massive bumper on the front with a huge toe pin. Yeah. This is actually the same cab that's on the pickups. So like my 1995 F250 has the exact same cab, just the hood is different. Like I said, flatbed dump. Well, somewhere underneath all this emissions garbage is a gas engine. I mean, she's loaded to the hilt. That's some kind of a snorkel intake for the air pump. I actually think it has 2 air pumps. Looks like an EGR valve back there. Bunch of canisters down here. Evap stuff, I guess. I can't believe they have evap system on a F700, but what are you gonna do? And then I think, so that's the air compressor for the air brakes, but I'm pretty sure back there is another air pump. So there's all kinds of gizmos over here for that. Anyway, let's fire it up and I'll show you what it does. Alright, I'm thinking we go for the exhaust leak first. This engine should have oxygen sensors, or at least an oxygen sensor. So if it's getting air, outside air into the exhaust, then that could mess things up. So it's definitely loose here, the pipe to the manifold flange. So I think we can just tighten that clamp up, or attempt to tighten that clamp up. See how that goes. A Caterpillar calls that a Marmon flange. I don't know if that's the official term or if that's a cat thing. Okay, that didn't really help, but it was worth a try. I think I see the larger issue. Come on, camera. Come on. So, right there. Man, this is hard to get in the frame. Alright, you see that thing right there? That's what's left of the exhaust manifold gasket. So it's blown the gasket out. Oh, man. So, what do you think the chances are we're going to get that off there in one piece? And that it's not already cracked? I don't know. I guess I should see if there's parts available first, and then we'll make a decision. I managed to get the left side off. It was about as fun as you might expect. It is cracked right here, but it's not super bad. We can probably weld that up. However, I broke this fitting here, which is the inlet, I think, for the secondary air injection, and the EGR tube was absolutely not coming out of there. So I made the executive decision to just chop that tube off, and we'll deal with that later. Anyway, I think we'll work on the left-hand side, or sorry, right-hand side. I'll bring you guys along for that one. It looks a little bit easier. I don't think this one's ever been off before. I also don't know if this thing originally had exhaust manifold gaskets or not. A lot of times they don't have them when it's a cast iron manifold and a cast iron head, just because, you know, there's not really a problem with thermal expansion or whatever. Anyway, I think it may have just been iron on iron. But the right hand side definitely had a gasket that's blown out, so maybe it's been done once before. Yep, that figures. Same size, it's just nothing left of it. Oh man, it's just gonna round it right off. Not even trying. Yeah, same thing as the last one. Well, I tried. I really did. I'm pretty sure this side's been worked on though, because it's actually got some hex left on all the nuts and bolts. The other side did not. Well, that ain't coming off there. I don't think you can fit any kind of power tool in here. Looks like we're getting the whole works there, which is fine. Well, slightly more of the shield survived on this side than the other side, I'll say that much. Well, so far this is going pretty well. I spent over 2 hours getting the other side off. Oh man, that one's pretty well in there. Go down there. Stupid thing. Jeepers, come on. There. Oh, come on. Stupid inner fender. Come on. Yeah. Jeez. Anybody else want to come out the easy way? It'd be real nice if you did. Nope. Let's see. That one's already out. What's left? 3 left? I think the rest of the world maybe is on to something with cab over trucks. You know how easy it is to work on the engine in a cab over truck? It's fantastic.
there are pitfalls though. One time I was working on a little Isuzu NPR or something, cab over truck. Had a Chevy gas engine in it. And I didn't know this, but when you turned the key on, or started the engine or something, it automatically locked the doors. Did an oil change on it, started the engine up, shut the door because you can't leave the doors hanging open while the cab's up. And yeah, we were locked out. So I pulled the coil wire off and killed it. And then we had to call the owner, and they brought down a second set of keys, but tied up the bay for the better part of the day. While we were waiting for that to happen. Kind of embarrassing. So we got 2 here we're gonna have to heat. Yeah, there we go. Alright, you guys are in my way. Oh, come on, really? That's why I use the cutting head for everything. Welding tips are such a pain in the ass. I'm always hitting the knobs. I don't want that thing to get out. Is that not too bad? Okay, 1 down, 1 to go. Alright, I better grab something to hold on to that. We'll use the I know what you did last summer hook here. Because these things are heavy. There it is. Alright, you gonna sit there? There we go. Free. Well, don't see any problems on this side other than that busted fitting. I think she'll clean up just fine. Okay, that's enough for one day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh boy, gotta remove that air injection tube, secondary air injection tube, or whatever you want to call it. Or I want to remove it so I can try to get those fittings apart. Be a lot easier off the truck. But boy, they sure didn't make it easy to get them off. So there's a bolt or a stud or something on the back side of the head. Oh. Seems easier to get to from the bottom. Okay, so it's a nut and a stud. Alright, that was the easy one. You guys probably can't even see it. Don't feel bad because I can't see it either. But there's one. Come on. There's some kind of a nut or bolt or something way up here. Oh. Yeah, I don't think I can get to it. It's like right there, but that heat shield's in my way. Okay. Obviously that was never meant to come out of there. So we're gonna have to think long and hard about how we're gonna get it back in position. Because it's
Yeah, it's impossible. Oh man. All right, not bad. Well, I'm a bit less confident about this one, but we can try. Maybe if I can get a socket on it. Let's see what happens. I don't know about this. It's not looking good. Nope. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. Okay, figure something else out. I see why the fitting came apart in the same way on both sides, because it's actually made from two pieces that are brazed or silver soldered together. So we never had a chance. As soon as I heated that up, it just melted the braze and then we were done. So yeah, I don't know how we could have ever gotten that apart. Anyway, the good news is we should be able to fix it by re-brazing it the same way it was when it was new. I don't think we're ever going to get the remains of it out of the manifold, so if we're going to braze it, we got to do it like it sits. And then we've got to braze up this crack too. I've had good luck brazing cast iron manifolds. You know, people think it can't withstand the temperature of the manifold, but I've never found that to be a problem. I mean, obviously Ford's okay with it because they're brazing the fittings together, so it'll be just fine. The only other thing you can do is nickel weld them, which might be a little bit better. But personally, I like to braze. I think it has less distortion, so it's my preferred process. Jeepers, what the heck happened to this thing? Nope. I'll be back. I drilled the ends of the crack. That should stop the crack from spreading. And then I V'd this out with a carbide burr. Now, in my opinion, you don't have to go that deep with your V, because the brazing that we're going to do, it's not structural. It's not designed to hold the manifold together. It's more about just stopping the crack from spreading further and sealing up any leaks. So we'll go ahead and braze that up. This is 3/32 flux coated bronze brazing rod, and we'll use a welding tip on the acetylene torch.
Anyway, you get the idea.
Well, there's no points for making it pretty. I think that'll work just fine. And the needle scaler, you know, it chips off the flux, but it also helps to kind of relieve the stress from when this thing cooled and contracted. So next up, we got to get this fitting situated. So again, you can see where it was brazed originally, right on here, like so. I ran it through the sandblast cabinet multiple times. Pretty happy with how it came out. I mean, it's just, whatever that stuff is, it's like rust, but it's even harder because it's been hot, and it is a mother lover to chip through. Anyway, clean up this thing here, and then we'll do our best to reattach. But we're definitely gonna have to machine these manifolds because, well, the right side's not too bad, but the left side, it's probably, I don't know, 30 thousandths out of flat or more. We got the manifolds back from the machine shop this morning. They look good. I guess they were too warped to use the belt sander, so we had to set them up on the surfacing machine that they use for cylinder heads and actually cut them. So yeah, it took them quite a bit longer, cost quite a bit more than what I was expecting, but that's okay. They look good. And I don't know if I ever showed you guys the braze job I did on those fittings. Nothing spectacular, but should work just fine. I ran a tap through the holes in the cylinder head, and I found a problem over here on the right hand side. Hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Right there, that one, the side of the thread is blown out. So yeah, it's actually broken. The casting's broken. I don't know how that happened, if it's from the manifold running loose for so long. There are still threads underneath of that broken section, so I think we're going to be okay, but it's definitely not ideal. And then up here in the front, it's the same way. This one's actually a little bit worse. So we're going to see what we can do, but yeah, that's not good. Well, sorry guys, the heat just kicked on. Who needs a thermostat when you've got a camera? Anyway, here's the game plan. Got a new set of exhaust manifold gaskets from Felpro. Think they'll work. I may have to trim them just a hair for this last hole, which is going to be tricky because there isn't much meat here. Then I got two hardware kits. These are from Dorman. Doesn't have all the stuff we need, but I think we can mix and match it with some standard hardware and get where we want to go. These heat shields for the spark plug wires, they're in pretty sad shape. This one's missing one of its tabs, the other one's just about to fall off. We can't reuse those. Luckily, they're still available. Got these right from the mothership at Ford. I believe they're correct, so no problem there. Now, the EGR tube that's broken off over here, that is not coming out. No way, no how. I've tried every trick in the book. It's not going to happen. So, instead of destroying it or drilling it out or whatever, I'm just going to cut that off square, and we're going to use this, which is a stainless steel compression fitting. Kind of pricey. These are like 45 bucks. Got it from McMaster-Carr. I don't know if you could get away with using a brass compression fitting. Possibly if you were, further away from the manifold, you could do it. I don't know. This is what we're going to use. It's a 5/8 tube. Should slip right on there. The air injection tubes, I got the nuts loosened up and the threads cleaned. I think we're going to be able to reuse those. I kind of mangled the hex on this one, but it'll be fine. So let's get to it. Looks to me like the broken out threads must have been a problem for the last guy too. So their solution was a bolt with a slightly longer thread, which that'll work fine. We'll do the same thing. And then they made up a stud with a little bit longer thread. It's just a bolt with a piece of thread scabbed onto the end of it. So instead of putting that back in, what I did is just take a bolt, just like this bolt, and I took another shorter bolt and brazed them back to back, head to head. And the hexes line up. A socket will fit right over top of that. should work just fine. And obviously it looks a little better than that. The right side manifold's installed. Everything's bolted up tight except for this bracket here that holds all the valves for the secondary air system. I want to wait until we get that tube installed to button that up, and then the shield's kind of just loose in here too. But the hard part I think is done, and hopefully this is the hard side. The other side I think will be a little bit easier. Here's my MacGyver setup for installing the left side exhaust manifold. Without growing a third arm, there's no way I can hold it and hold the gasket and hold the bolts and get everything lined up and installed. It's not going to happen. The right side didn't seem to be too bad, but this left side, yeah. Anyway, got this little chain fall, and I just wrapped some baling wire around that fitting that we fixed, and I can crank that thing up, and then it'll kind of hang there while I work my magic. I generally like working by myself, or at least I don't mind it, but yeah, it's definitely not always the most efficient way to work. Well, I guess you guys might as well follow along with the struggle here. This exhaust manifold gasket is pretty delicate. I don't really want to break it. Yeah, that figures. By the way, here's a little tip I learned a long time ago. All these big trucks have the steering shaft running down on the driver's side, and they're always just packed with grease. So anytime I'm going to be working in this area, I just wrap them with a towel or a rag, and it'll keep the big chunks off your clothes. Oh, you dummy. Yeah, let's go ahead and install the manifold half a port off. I think that might be it. Yeehaw. Well, now I get to put the exhaust back in. Let me tell you what happened. When I was installing the right side manifold, I dropped one of these bolt stud deals, and I could not find it. Looked underneath the truck with a mirror, up inside the frame rail, under the heat shields, could not find it. Finally, I decided to shake the exhaust a little bit, and I could hear something rolling around in there. So somehow this thing dropped down, bounced off the wiring heat shield, glanced off the starter, and went right down inside that exhaust pipe. I tried magnets, I tried various little grabber tools under there. Wasn't gonna happen. So luckily it's only one bolt that holds the whole exhaust system in. So minor setback. Alright, I think we're done underneath. I got the flange clamps tightened up, and then there's our compression fitting for the EGR tube. The only thing left to do is plug in the O2 sensor, which is way up on top of that air tank that you can't see. Alright, I think we're ready. I had to make some modifications over here. These are vacuum lines that go to these solenoids. I think it controls that secondary air system. Anyway, all the old plastic lines were just so brittle that I ended up breaking one, and then in the process of fixing that I broke all three of them. Anyway, I just scabbed on some flexible hoses. We'll see how we like that. Maybe I can come up with something better, or maybe it'll be one of those temporary unless it works kind of deals. Also installed the secondary air injection tube and the EGR tube. Pretty happy with how all that worked. I didn't show you guys, but this head also had the same problem. I had to use two longer bolts because the threads were basically broken out and stripped here. But still threads down below, so just using a little bit longer fastener, I think is going to solve the problem. Alright guys, I think we're going to split the video here. It's going to be part one of at least two, possibly part one of three or more, depending on how many things we find wrong. I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. The exhaust manifolds look good. You know, it's never easy or fun doing manifold gaskets on a V configuration engine. There's just no access, and especially on these cab and chassis trucks because they shove the engine so far back under the firewall that you got to be a contortionist to get in there. And add to that the fact that the truck's 26 years old, and I think it's lived in this area its whole life, so it's not super rusty, but a little bit of corrosion goes a long way when it comes to exhaust. And that's where we get into the heating and beating and breaking of bolts and, you know, the usual stuff. Anyway, now that we have the exhaust manifold leaks taken care of, we can move on to diagnosing the engine. It still has a little bit of, you know, it's still kind of loud, but it's a significant improvement over what it was. The muffler's, you know, basically shot, so in order to really quiet it down, it would have to have a new muffler. But at least we don't have to worry about the leaks causing a problem with that O2 sensor and fooling us on our diagnosis. I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments about the secondary injection tubes and how I should have just left those off, or maybe even the EGR tube and deleted all that stuff and deleted all the emissions and yada yada yada. I can't do that. You know, as a shop owner, the risk is too high. You know, EPA fines for tampering with emissions equipment are hefty, and I don't have that kind of cash to throw around. So we're going to put it back like it was, and hopefully when it leaves here, it won't have any check engine lights on, and all of the original systems will work as they should. And there's no reason, you know, not to put that stuff back. It really has the same, you know, emissions equipment as the passenger cars. They just basically doubled everything up because the engine is so big. So it has two air pumps, one for each side, and it also has two purge valves for the evap system. What else did they double up? I think that's it. Anyway, they kind of just scaled everything linearly since the truck is so large. Anyway, thanks guys for watching, and there'll be plenty of more videos about this truck. We still have to fix the you know, drivability issues with the engine, and then we have a bunch of electrical gremlins to tackle. And electrical problems on these cab and chassis trucks is always a lot of fun. So thanks for watching guys, and I hope I'll see you back for the rest of this series. I tell you what, here at Watch West Work, we do the job right because we do the job twice. That's correct. The exhaust manifold is back off the engine. Come on. I have made the decision that I don't like these exhaust manifold gaskets, and we're going to take them out, and we're going to run no gaskets. Here's the story. I'm confident that these engines, like a lot of Ford engines from this era, did not have exhaust manifold gaskets from the factory. And I was on the fence about installing these gaskets in the first place, mostly because I don't like this area right here. It is super thin and really weak there. I feel like that's just going to blow out almost instantaneously. So I almost didn't put them in. And then for whatever reason I decided to go ahead and do it. I guess because I didn't have any better direction. However, I was able to get my hands on a service manual for this 429, the 7-liter engine, and it has a section about installing the exhaust manifold gasket, and it also has some TSBs about exhaust manifold leaks. And what it says is if you have an exhaust manifold leak, to resurface the manifolds or replace the manifolds and install them using only regular grease between the flanges. Do not use a gasket. Got the right side busted loose, cleaned up, greased up, ready to go back together. All right, that's done. Let's see if it leaks. I found the misfire. Come on, do it again. Hope you guys can see that. Can I interest anyone in a pair of gently used exhaust manifold gaskets? Think they're wall hangers now. What are you gonna do? You know, I don't always have the answers, and sometimes I make mistakes, but you know, we just fix it and move on. Didn't take that long, about an hour to peel those manifolds off, clean them up, smear on some grease and torque them back down. And I feel better about doing it that way, because I just don't think these things would ever have lasted. It's so thin right there. I mean, there's maybe, I don't know, 3 millimeter thickness right there between the hole and the edge of the gasket. I can't see that holding up long term. But anyway, yeah, let's move on. We got some direction on the misfire, the random misfire. I had a suspicion about that since the exhaust manifold was loose like that, you know, blowing hot smoke up at those spark plug boots. I figured they were going to be pretty well cooked, especially since that heat shield was in such bad shape. You're probably wondering how that grease smells burning off the exhaust manifolds. Not good.